Okay, we are back from recess. I will recognize Senator Nelson on her amendment.
Line 4, page 5. Nope. Mr. Chair, can you just ask the clerks to verify the location of the amendment for the
Sure,
Healthy Futures Fund?
I can help out with that. It
Okay.
should be numbered 15, and the amendment is SB55 TCN line 23, page 5.
I think we're going to need to refresh our number 15. Can you just, colleagues, can you please just refresh
Yes,
your
please
window?
refresh your folders.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, is this the one that reads on line 23, page 5, Healthy Futures Fund? Is that
Yes,
the one?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. This,
found it,
again, is SB55 TCN line 23, page 5.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. The calculation is wrong. I actually was trying to increase the Healthy Futures Fund by $700,000, and this looks like the accounting on this is less than that. So it should read $42,820,945. Can we just make a technical correction, if that's okay with the body?
Okay, that's fine. We'll have that technical correction made.
So just to reiterate, this is an amendment to increase the Healthy Futures Fund by $700,000. And so just to clarify, we had some discussions on the special fund revenue, and again, there was a agreement that they are optimistic of increasing the Healthy Futures Fund, that the Healthy Futures Fund is tracking, and so I'm hoping that we can increase it to $42,820,945 by $700,000. This is with also the anticipation that DRT is able to establish the cigarette stamp tax to properly account for the selling of the cigarette and tobacco products. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Senator Nelson, just to be clear, so the amount, your amendment looks to increase the Healthy Futures Fund from what was $42,120,945 to $42,820,945, correct?
That's correct, by $700,000.
And could you make a motion to allow Office of Finance and Budget to calculate the total where it should apply?
Yes, I did that earlier. I asked that they would make technical corrections to the accounting piece of the
Okay, just to be clear.
amount.
Thank you. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Anyone on the Senator Nelson amendment? Senator Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to get feedback from our Office of Budget. I mean, you know, as we're going through this process of different categories here, increasing these amounts, I just want to hear their feedback and their justification on the amounts that they did provide for the budget, the draft budget that's before us now. If I could ask Mr. Guerrero that question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Yeah, just to go back a little bit on how we came up with the 42 million. Basically, what is tracking is actually 39 million. But if you take into account what's been happening the last several months, and this is the Healthy Future Fund, we were actually tracking, averaging 3.6 million a month. So if you take that into account, the actual projected amount we were looking at was 43,155. So we looked at what was, we looked at what was BVMR's projection, and there was a little bit, there were less at 42.1. So we kind of figured, okay, 42.1 is a reasonable number, but our initial tracking actually was at 43.1. So it is below, I believe with the increase of the 700,000, it will still put us below our initial recommendation, what we were actually going to recommend at the 43 versus the 42.
So what is the recommendation? I mean, I'd like to have some comfort level with the numbers that are in the budget bill as drafted before us, because otherwise we're going to be going through this, you know, we're going to have other proposals to raise amounts. I mean, what is, because I'm not wanting to add on more to the budget bill than necessary at this point.
Like I said, Senator, when we did our initial analysis and our projection using the last several months, we found that our projection was actually higher than BVMR's. Mm-hmm. So we initially, made the consensus decision. What did we want to do? Did we want to go to the higher number, or do we want it at least to meet BVMR's number, which was lower than ours by about almost, how much was the difference? Oh, yeah, between the 42 and the 43. Yeah, the difference was actually 1 million. So we were higher than BVMR's tracking on our original projection, but then we decided just to go with BVMR. But between BVMR's and our original estimate is about $1 million difference.
So are you comfortable with this increase that's being proposed by this amendment?
I can say I'm comfortable, Senator, simply because it is within our initial projection for the fund, yes.
Then out of curiosity, why wasn't that figure proposed then versus what currently is in the budget?
We took things into consideration, Senator. Remember last year when we were tracking technically with almost all the businesses closing. There was really not much activity out there for the fund to collect. But then this year we decided, okay, well, it's opening. It's opening back up. And I believe, just as I believe yesterday or today, we started again some sort of restriction that may again affect it. But because of what we were tracking, considering what has been happening the last 6 months, we figured that the tracking was pretty reasonable to say that the $1 million difference between BVMR's and our number was reasonable. But we went ahead and decided to go ahead and use BVMR's numbers, with the caveat that should anything happen, we can always increase it up to at least our level, which I feel I would still be comfortable with. Anything over our numbers, I will not.
Well, and I guess just moving forward, we're going to have to wait and see what the impact of what the governor has put out publicly to our people this afternoon, what the impacts are going to be. Certainly, is it going to decrease public involvement and engagement in patronizing these businesses? Because I'm sure the first time someone goes up to the door to have a meal or purchase something and be told, sorry, we won't let you in, for whatever reason they are not vaccinated, because it sounds like we only have until Monday to address that. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I appreciate your feedback. I just, again, I just want to take a more conservative approach at this time because of the uncertainty that's ahead of us. But thank you very much for responding, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to ask these questions.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Anyone else on the amendment? Senator Pt.2, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to OFB for giving your explanation. I looked at the difference between the June I'm sorry, the July projected versus the actual for July. And this is, I don't know if this is the first time, but I'm noticing that there is an increase in the projected revenues versus the actual, an increase, not a decrease from what was projected, of about 285,159. Is that correct?
May I ask, Senator, what you were referring to?
Okay, CRER report, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the CRER report. So
As
I'm
of-
seeing at the
as
CRER
of
report
July?
ending June.
June.
Yeah, ending June. Ending June, the projected revenues, I'm sorry, let's do July since we have the latest, the closest one. So we're looking at July, the end of July. Well, first I looked at the end of June because it gives you a projected revenue in June. And for the month of July, the projected revenue is $3,842,280. And then the snapshot that we received ending the end of July
4.1.
is showing $4,127,439, which there's an increase actually of $285,159, correct? Is that what you guys are seeing? The same thing?
That's
Okay.
what I'm reading on the report, yes.
Okay. So we're starting to see, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a trend that's starting to come. Is this your anticipation that this trend is going to, stay its course because of what exactly is causing that trend, if it is happening, that you feel comfortable enough? I mean, do you feel comfortable raising it to 700,000?
Senator, if you go back to October of the same report,
October?
you will see the actual collection for October was 2 million. In November, the actual collection was 4 million. So it's a 100% increase. Then in December, it dropped back down to 2 million. So if you're asking me to explain the spike, I don't know. Maybe there were more people smoking that, the month of November that increased the taxes. I can't answer that. But I'm looking at the trend. If you look following the months down, for January, February went up to 3.5, March went down to 2.4, April was 2.8, then it spiked up again to 3.6. Then 3.5, I believe, in June, and then in July, it went up to 4.1.
Okay,
I
when
would
you're
have
saying-
to. I would actually have to go back into the AS400 and find out in the detailed categories, whether it be tobacco, cigars, whatever it is, that shows the spike in collection. I can't answer you specifically, but why it went up to 4.1, I don't know at this point. But because it's at 4.1, I would think it is at least a good step in the right direction in terms of collection. And this
Steve,
would probably even support my reasoning for maybe going with the higher projection at this point.
Steve, the projected revenues, or the one that was appropriated for the Healthy Futures Fund, was $42,748,091. That's what was appropriated. Right now, it's showing there's a shortage for the month, and this is the end of July. Of course, we have 2 more months to go. There's a shortage of 2,841,728 short. Do you think, based on your projections, do you think this actually, for August and September, is actually going to erase this shortfall and at least come on an equal, hit the target mark of 42,748,091?
The months prior to July, Senator, remember, things were closed. Bars were closed. And this is way before March. So now that they're opening up slowly and gradually, we hope to see an increase in collections. So, you're asking me whether or not we're going to hit the 42.7 million? I hope so. We're 2.8 million difference right now. But I would like to anticipate that maybe for the month of August, we see a spike. Instead of 3.5, we collect 4 million. That would help the cause to get us closer to our projection. But
We can all be optimistic and hopeful, but, just based on your numbers, I'm asking you, do you think we're going to be able to hit that 42?
at the trend we're trending now, it's most likely we won't hit the 42, but based on what I see here, we're at 39.9, I think there's a good chance that we just might get close to 42. If you're asking me if we're going to hit it, I don't know.
So right now, you're even saying that we may not hit the 42, and yet, we appropriated in this budget bill for FY2022, 42,120,945.
Assuming things are getting better next year, Senator, yes. Like I said earlier with all the other funds, we anticipate and we hope things get better. And that's all we can do at this point. And I've also stated before that there's a lot of unknowns out there. People have said it themselves. People I've talked to said themselves, there's a lot of unknowns. But I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can, but also be reasonable in these numbers.
Yeah, realistic. With this funding, like the customs and quarantine that was appropriated in the special funds here, all this funding in customs quarantine goes directly to customs and quarantine, correct?
Excuse me, what was your question?
The full amount that's coming, the 4.1 that was appropriated in FY21 from special funds, that amount was appropriated, all that was appropriated to customs and quarantine. Is that correct?
By the creation of the fund, yes.
Yes, okay. And if they fall short, it makes it easy to realize that, okay, it's customs and quarantine. But unlike the Healthy Futures Fund, how many different agencies receive funding from the Healthy Futures Fund?
From what we're appropriating for the funds for FY22, there's 7 agencies that are being funded from the Healthy Future Fund.
7?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if this funding falls short, which agencies are first to not get the appropriation or not be fully appropriated?
Senator, that is not, I don't know. That is actually up to the administration to decide that. Once we set the appropriation level, it's up to basically the administration to monitor the appropriation by the collections of funds that come into these accounts. So if the fund runs short, then I assume they would do an appropriate allocation that would be across the board to all 7 agencies and not just one agency. So if you're asking me if there's a priority list, I don't know what that priority is.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Senator Pt.2. Anyone else on the amendment? No one else on the amendment? Senator Speaker Talahi?
Yes, if I could just ask the author to yield just about, so the increase was explained as something to do with cigarette taxes? Is that correct? I just want to, if you could just be more clear.
Yes, I'm just hoping that, in the previous term, we awarded a contract in a bill for the rules and regulations for the cigarette tax stamp. And so I'm hoping that DRT will finally pull through with this. We've been working on this for 5-6 years. And we still know that there's a lot of unaccounted for taxes that is received by the Healthy Futures Fund through this. So I'm willing to bet that DRT is going to, with the help of the ARP funds and everything like that, I'm willing to that $700,000 that we're going to be on track with the collections for Healthy Futures Fund.
Thank you. And was increased cigarette collection considered by OFB in their predictions? Like a change in cigarette collection or tax stamps being implemented, was that considered?
Senator, based on what we're tracking, previously, before the law was passed about the increase in the tobacco tax, we were averaging about 37 million. Right now, what the fund is showing is about 40 million. So yes, to answer your question, that was considered in the projection.
But that's the rate. You said the increased tax, that's the rate of the tax. But I'm talking about a difference in how they collect it, whether they're going to implement that cigarette stamp program or not. Was that part of it? Remember how they had estimated how much we're going to make if we implement this tax stamp program? Yeah, was any of that included in this?
No, Senator, that wasn't part of our calculation.
Okay. Thanks. And I think it's good that the sponsor of this amendment is looking to DRT to implement that this year and get some increased revenues from cigarette taxes. Can you just tell us the Healthy Futures Fund, if it's increased, can you remind us how it gets distributed, the formulas? Will this increase all the recipients?
Basically, what we do, Senator, is we look at the total amount that we estimate to collect in the Healthy Future Fund, and we allocate it according to the requests from various departments and agencies. There's no specific there's no specific percentage that we allocate to any agency. We just allocate based on the requests of the departments to make sure at least we fund what we can out of the Healthy Future Fund.
I thought there were formulas, for example, the Cancer Trust Fund, there's a fund that goes to the hospital, there's part that goes to the mayors from this Healthy Futures Fund, and I thought those were all by formula.
Senator, the only one that I know that the Healthy Future Fund is supposed to obligate a certain percentage to is the Cancer Trust Fund, which I believe is at 15%. Unfortunately, simply because of the funding and the tracking of the fund itself, we were unable to actually set aside those percentage amounts over the last 2-3 years. However, this year, if you notice in the bill, we did up the cancer by $2 million. So we're trying our best at least to get to that percentage and comply basically with the law.
All right, so you're saying that the formula doesn't mandate that this 700,000, if we add it on, goes anywhere in particular, that it's completely up to our discretion how to distribute that?
Because, referring back again to the Cancer Trust Fund for 15%, since we're not up at the 15% level, I would say that this additional 700,000 will not be basically allocated by percentage, and if the intent to increase the fund is for a specific purpose or expense, then I would believe that we would go ahead and appropriate it as such.
Point of inquiry, did I hear that the money would be going to the Cancer Care Fund, the 700,000, if it's increased?
No, Senator. What I said was that if we're going to increase the fund by 700,000, because we are still not up to par of allocating the 15% of the Healthy Future Fund to cancer, it will not be affected. So the 700,000 would be basically appropriated for the intended purpose of what is being requested for.
Which was what?
Sorry,
Okay.
let's get back to the original speaker.
Well, yes, I'm
Secret's
also
allowed.
trying to clarify that. If this is allocated to some particular place?
I'm sorry, Senator, can you repeat
You
it?
said it's going to go where it's requested for?
I'm assuming that through the amendment, it's requesting to increase the Healthy Future Fund by 700,000. So whatever the purpose of that 700,000, I would have to appropriate that money too, is what I'm saying. So if we're just increasing the fund by 700,000 with no specific identity or purpose, department, program, then yes, it is available for appropriation, if that is the intent.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Guerrero.
Okay, anyone else on the amendment? Senator Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in light of the conversation that was just had between the OFB director and the speaker, if the author of the amendment can yield to the question is basically, where is this money going to be allocated to?
Does the author yield to the question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else on the amendment? If no one else would like to speak on the amendment, Senator Nelson, you may close. Okay. Any objections to the amendment? There's been an objection. All those in favor of the amendment signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. All right, it is now 5:43. We will recess.
Mr. Chair, can you redo the count, please?
Clerks have confirmed it was 8. I can call for the vote again one more time. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your hand. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Motion carries. All right, we will now recess and we will reconvene on Monday at 9 a.m. sharp.